Spend more time in nature. So, this is actually a video I had in the vault since like January, and I was gonna do Google Slides presentations and all that way back in the day, but I never got to them. So, this is only the only one I still have because I was looking back yesterday when I was making all my presentations for this week, and I was like, "Oh, I should do this one because this has been something that's kind of been on my mind again lately as the summertime comes to be, the weather gets nicer, and I really start to see kind of the beauty and how nice it is to be in nature, especially in this time of year. So let's get to it. First of all, we weren't meant to stay indoors all day. A lot of people live sort of these sedentary lifestyles, where they're working in the office, where they're working, in factories. That's not really the case anymore. I don't think that many people are like factory workers, although they're still out there. Um, Many people are just working indoors in general. And of course, this has always been the case throughout, time. People have worked indoors, but humans have always spent a lot of their day outdoors. And this was really the case before the Industrial Revolution. Of course, like you had like your miners and all that, but those have really all come around post-Industrial Revolution, right? This idea that we're supposed to just be indoors all day long, and maybe we'll reserve like 10, 15 minutes to go outside and quote unquote get some fresh air, right? Even though we're not even getting outside for like more than 15 minutes. Like, really? Like, is that really, all the fresh air you need? I don't think so. If you even take a look at our circadian rhythm, which is our internal body clock, it is dictated by light, right? So if we get sunlight in the morning within the first hour of waking, then about 16 hours later, we will naturally be sleepy and fall asleep for like 8 hours, right? Which is the kind of the general standard recommendation for an average person's sleep needs. Um, if you witness the sunset, it'll make you sleepy afterwards, right? If you go out in the dark, you'll also be tired for the most part. And just getting light throughout the day is really good for regulating your circadian rhythm. People don't get this anymore, so people's circadian rhythm is all out of whack, and that's definitely a problem in general. Because if your circadian rhythm is all out of whack, if you don't have kind of, if you're not following the day's light cycle, then this could lead to, worse hormonal profiles, less energy, more fatigue, right? And, that spirals out of control into a bunch of other health problems. And this is so overlooked today. We don't think about this because we're so used to this sedentary, sort of indoors all day lifestyle. Another thing, too, is to look at different ethnicities around the world and how they've adapted to their environment, right? So in Africa, people are darker in Africa because it's sunnier out there, right? It's hotter. There's more UV exposure. So over time, their skin became darker, right? Because humans back in the day were spending a lot of their time outside. Truly, I don't think this would have happened if we lived in, a society like today where people, only go outside for like 10 minutes if they're lucky. Um, it probably just wouldn't be the case. I think everyone would just be like, um, Scandinavian looking, where they're just all pasty white, right? And then look at people from the Arctic Circle, right? Scandinavia, Greenland. They're much more white, they're much more pale because the UV isn't as much and they need to have more pale skin so they can intake apt vitamin D levels, right? So this kind of shows us that back in the day, people would spend a lot of their time outside. We don't get that anymore, and this is really going against our human nature that's been around for thousands of years, just in the past like 200 years. And there are mental benefits of spending time in nature. This is just one I cited. So, Harvard University cites mood and mental health benefits for people when they are in green nature areas. So, we got this guy right here. He's chilling in the trees. He's got the grass, the green grass. Um, and this is just green nature areas, but this can also just go to, be in the sunlight, um, being that fresh air outside. That can also just have a lot of general mental benefits as well. And I think you can just attest to this yourself, right? Especially in the summertime, if you go on a walk in an area like this or a bike ride where there's trees everywhere, there's green grass, it's super nice, right? The sun's out, it's a little bit hot. You just feel better afterwards mentally and physically as well, right? Because the mind and the body are very much connected. So, this is the link to the study. I'll also put it in the description of this video. This is kind of like the Harvard article slash study that I cited for this. And that's just even Harvard, bro. Even Harvard, who has gone very, very woke, you could say, in the past years, and has kind of promoted a lot of this sedentary, indoor, 9 to 5 corporate bro lifestyle just by being a big university. And that's once again, it's for a different video. I have videos on the school system and all that, but yeah, that's I'm not gonna get into that too much. Um, they talk about how, yeah, actually being outside is really good for your mental health, right? And these are the same people who say that you shouldn't spend more than 15 minutes in the sunlight a day because it's gonna give you skin cancer. Well, 15 minutes outside a day, it's probably not going to be enough for my mental health, right? I would say for me, once I get an hour, 2 hours outside, that's when I really start to feel better, throughout the day. So we know it's good. We know this is healthy for us, but how do we actually apply this into our everyday life? And what I would say is to literally just plan time in your day to spend in nature. Right? A lot of us have just busy lives, right? We have stuff to do, um, work, school, family, whatever. But nature is just an umbrella term for relaxing time outdoors. Like you don't need to sit in a forest for hours a day, to get the benefits of this. And consistency is key. Even though I'm not a big fan of like, probably sub 30 minutes outside a day. 15 minutes 7 days a week to start, is going to be better than 3 hours once per week, right? If you can just get home from work and then just walk around in your neighborhood or in your backyard, whatever, for 15 minutes every single day, that's going to be much better than 3 hours on a Saturday, hiking, right? And so you get into that consistency of it maybe for a month or two, and then you say, okay, 30 minutes a day, maybe even get up to like an hour per day if you really have the time to do that, or 30 minutes to an hour, right? Give yourself a broad scope range, but literally just plan time in your day to spend in nature. It's kind of like, I get it, it's a little bit corny, like you put on your calendar, like, yeah, nature outside, but it's nice and you're gonna see a lot of benefits from it. I would also say to not use any devices when you're, spending this time and just make sure it's sort of primal, sort of animalistic, right? You're just out there, you're just chilling, right? And yeah, that's gonna do it. So guys, spend more time outside, spend more time in nature. The mental health benefits you're gonna see, right? You're gonna see lower anxiety, lower depression. And I can attest to this as well. You probably can too. So just make sure you're scheduling it in your day. And as always, guys, God bless.